Hi, my name is Rick Ford, and I am a member of the AARC Benchmarking Committee, and here today to help you get started. So we're assuming you've received your welcome letter from Tim Myers from the AARC, and it's provided you with the URL to get here, to get to this particular page. It's provided you with information on how to sign on to AARC Connect to be a member of our online community, and it should have provided you with your login credentials. So once you're at this page, you can get into the login screen by clicking Sign In. We'll go ahead and enter our login credentials. I'll put the ones that were issued to me. And I can go ahead and I can tab to the next key or to the next field, or I can click in the next field. So I'm entering my password, and I've done that correctly. I can click on enter, and I should be to the home page, which I'm at now. The home page has a lot of information on it. I'm not going to go through all the information. I think most of it's self-explanatory, but I want to take you to a couple of documents you should look at before you start. One is this quick start guide. So click on that, and it will go through the login. It will also take some time to share with you what is on this home page and what it's about. So you want to go ahead and take a good look at the quick start. Okay, quick starts are good. You want to take a look at that. The other thing is you want to take a look at navigation tips. Mike Dennis, who's the programmer at the AARC, put this together again to help people understand: do they tab, do they backspace, do they click? A little bit about the internet tools and things such as that. A little bit about editing things, those standard conventions of data entry that you need to know about. So take a look at those two documents. They're very important. All right. So provided you've reviewed those and you're ready to go, I'm going to walk you through the hospital profile, which is really what we want to get done in the next 10 minutes or so. So you go to data aggregation. You can see it's create or edit hospital profile. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Now I went ahead and signed in under a test login that was given to me. I'm a test hospital because I no longer work at UCSD, but I help the group with the program. So this is Test Hospital Rick Ford, I guess, if you want to call it that. Occasionally it may sound like I'm talking about UCSD because I used a lot of UCSD data. It's important to get this information in quickly and get it in correctly because it is what drives the compare groups. So if you're trying to find hospitals that are under 400 beds, well, it doesn't know how many beds you are unless you've entered the data in this profile. So it's very important. The other important piece of the profile is it provides a way to connect. So if a department manager is looking at a report and they're seeing that you have a variance that they'd like to achieve or a metric you'd like to achieve, you'll be able to click on a link that represents that data or where it's coming from, and it'll take you to this profile page, and you can be able to contact that manager and chat with them directly. So when you sign up for AARC Benchmarking, you also sign up to be a member of this group and be a part of the network, which is what benchmarking is all about. So you can see this has my particular information in here. If that was blank, it's very easy. You just go ahead and click in the box or tab to the box, and then you go ahead and enter the information. Once you've done that, tab to the next field, tab to the next field. Okay. We'd like you to put your phone number in there. Well, I may as well go ahead and put mine in there then. Just realized I hadn't. All right, and your email. So that's the demographics in terms of the contact information. We then want to know kind of a little bit about your hospital. Is it a rural hospital? Is it a suburban hospital? And you go ahead and, again, most of this stuff you know off the top of your head. If you've been a longtime member of AARC Benchmarking, you know there were 64 questions. A lot of those questions you couldn't answer off the top of your head, and that was a problem. We had hospitals that 2 years later still couldn't complete their profile. But in this case, you know the information, 13 quick questions. It should take you about 10 minutes at the most to fill this out. So get that done as soon as possible. You then go to the hospital organization. Are you an academic center? Are you a community center? Okay. You see clicking on that a second time, pull the value away. You can have multiple selections here. I could be an academic center that's also a children's hospital. In this case, again, I'm referring to UCSD as an academic center, university affiliated, of course. But you want to go ahead and put your hospital's information there to the best of your knowledge. Want to make sure you got the bed size right. These are a licensed bed. And again, this information is going to be really important when we're doing compare groups. So take some extra time to make sure you haven't entered, a couple extra zeros or something like that. There's no warnings to tell you if you've done something crazy. So take a second look and make sure you're getting it correct. All right. We then want to know a little bit about the scope and complexity of your hospital. So, you have an emergency room, burn unit, cardiac intensive care unit, all those types of things you'd go ahead and check, or you can deselect if you don't. Okay. And we want to know the size of some of those units, namely the adult, pediatric, and neonatal ICU. Okay. So if you've gone back and just updated something, you said, oh, I made a mistake, we actually only have 35 beds, you can just go ahead and update your profile by clicking down here, and it's going to go ahead and save that particular information. So let's go back to the hospital profile. You can see it saved to 35. But when you're filling this out for the first time, you just hit next page, you go on the next page. This is your department structure. And as you guys know, there's about as many department structures as there are departments. So we're trying to get a better idea of the scope of practice of your department, the complexity of the department, some of those things that may drive your cost higher or lower than others. So, so what we want to be able to do is just envision the respiratory care cost center. That's a single cost center. It's a single department, but it may consist of providing several services. You may be doing transports, you may be doing bronchoscopy, you may be doing some cardiology, you may be doing some hyperbaric medicine. If you are doing that within the cost center and the individuals within the cost center are providing those services, then you want to go ahead and click on these radio buttons and identify if they're being provided within your cost center. Now there's also some complexity that's happening at the managerial level where directors are taking on other cost centers in addition to the respiratory cost center. So if there is something outside the primary respiratory cost center that the department management team is managing, it could be the group of managers, it could be just the director. We want to know that too. So you could have a director that's overseeing respiratory care, but they could also oversee anesthesia monitoring or cardiology or sleep studies. We want to know that because when we start looking at fixed costs and we see fixed costs may be a little higher, it could be because these services are being provided. Okay, let's go on to the next page. A little bit about the department staffing. Also, important to have the FTEs, total FTEs, and those that are in the clinical environment. And again, these are all clearly defined in definitions. If you're saying, well, what do they mean by the number of budgeted clinical staff? So again, that's why it's important to look at some of the tools that are on that home page. And by the way, if you ever got to get back to the home page, if you needed to go back there, just click home and now you're back there. I should have pointed out if you were looking for definitions, you could look at entry definition, and that's going to tell you, exactly what we mean by saying, clinical staff. So let's go back to that hospital profile, okay? And I was on this particular page, I believe, clinical practice page. No, I was on the department staffing page. So you can kind of see how we're navigating through here. Home key, you can shortcut to the page. You can use these next page and back pages to get there. We were at the department staffing. We also kind of want to know, are you using an RVU system? What is driving your flex? When you increase staff or decrease staff? So that's going to be helpful. You'll see if the better performers are perhaps those that are using RVU-driven systems. All right. A little thing about clinical practice. So we talk about the complexity of the hospital, a little bit about the complexity of the department. This drives it down to use of protocols, compliance with protocols. Do you stack treatments? Hopefully everyone's clicking this button, but we do realize that there is stacking that takes place out there. We're going to go ahead and click never because that's just not done at UC San Diego when I was completing this. And this is really important because there may be hospitals that stack and then you see their units of service are much higher than yours. Well, why are they higher than yours? Because they're stacking. That doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, but it provides an explanation for why they may be doing significantly more units of service. So that's an important question. Again, we had 64 questions in the original profile. These are the 13 that the clients over the past, 9 years said, no, you still need to ask that question. And the good thing is that as a client, if you have a question you think is important to ask, you can submit it to the committee. You can use AARC Connect and pose that question. And the AARC has their own programmer now, so we can quickly incorporate that if that's a good thing to do. So let's go on to the next page. And this is a little bit about department operations. We're curious if you're using an information system. We want to know the number of, well, probably just one director, the number of managers, supervisors, if you have a clinical instructor. These things are pretty self-explanatory. The definitions of those positions are down here if you're wondering what do they mean by a supervisor. The other thing to keep in mind that we realize you may enter a fraction in here because you could have a director that has 3 cost centers, so 0.33s in respiratory, 0.33s in PFT, and 0.33s in the pulmonary clinic. So be as accurate as you can when you're telling us how many positions, how many FTEs occupy these particular positions. Okay. The other thing we're curious about, or I should say clients we're curious about, is the credentialing, the number of RRTs, CRTTs, the number of people have various degrees, those types of things managers felt helpful to keep included in the profile. So that's it. There are actually 15 questions rather than 13. Okay, so we got 15 questions. And if you're done, just click Update Profile. And that's it. Takes you right back to the home page. So what we've done today is we've gone through how to log in. Make sure you look at the Quick Start Guide, navigation tips. You can look at some of the definitions. Go in and create your hospital profile and do that right after you've listened to this because we want to get that in quickly. And in future videos, we'll talk about entering and editing your data, creating the compare groups, and a lot about reports. But you got enough to get started, and thanks for joining the AARC Benchmarking family. And if you have any questions, make sure to post them on AARC Connect. Thank you.